Hi class, this is lesson 12.5, volume of pyramids and cones. So theorem 12.9 says the volume of a pyramid. So the volume V of a pyramid is 1/3 my capital B, so my base area again, times my height. So we've got a new formula. We're going to use this one for this entire lesson. 1/3 my base area times my height. And we're going to start right away by skipping a problem. Probably makes you happy there. So let's do this on your own. I like this problem much better than the other example above that. So we know we're going to use our formula. Volume equals 1/3 our base area times the height. We've been using a lot of formulas similar to this throughout this chapter, and we know we need to start by finding our base area. So we'll start by finding that, and my base is this triangle right here. And I know this is a right angle, so my 4 and 6 are perpendicular to each other. So the base of the area of a triangle is half our base times our height. So it's going to be half times 4 times 6. Half of 4 is 2. 2 times 6 is 12. So my base area is 12. So volume equals 1/3 times 12 times, they give me my 5 right here, that's my height. So times 5. So if you do 1/3 times 12 times 5, you'll find that your volume equals 20. And remember, for volume, we're using our units to the third power. So it's 20 meters cubed. And this is my final answer. So let's look at theorem 12.10. It's the volume of a cone theorem. So the volume of a cone V is still 1/3 my base area times my height. Now we've talked about this before. Since my base is a circle, well, my base area is going to be pi times my radius squared. So sometimes you might think of it as 1/3 pi times the radius squared times the height, but I'd rather you not memorize a totally separate formula. I'm just going to use this right here. Volume equals 1/3 my base area times my height. So turn your page. Let's look at the next side. So for example 2, we want to find the volume of the cone. So we're going to use volume equals 1/3 our base area times our height. So my base area we need to find first, just like we've been finding all along. Since it's a circle, we're going to do pi times our radius squared. So that's pi times 9 5/10 squared. If you do 9 5/10 squared, you get 90 25/100, and we have to keep our pi sign on there. So that's my base area. I'll plug it in. I'm given my height right here. So volume equals 1/3 times 90 25/100 pi times my height, which is 16.8. So if you multiply that all together and simplify, if you leave the pi out first, we'll get our exact value. And my exact value would be 505 4/10 pi. And my units would be millimeters cubed. And you should be comfortable with putting that in your calculator at this point. And if you want to get a rounded value, put that in your calculator and multiply it by pi. You'll get 1,587 76/100, and my units is still millimeters cubed. Let's do this oblique cone. Now an oblique cone means instead of it being straight up and down, it's kind of tilted a little bit, but we're still going to use the exact same formula. We're still going to use volume equals 1/3 my base area times my height. And in this picture right here, my base is still a circle, so to find my base area, we're still going to do pi times our radius squared. So we're going to do pi times 4 5/10 squared. So if I do 4 5/10 squared, that's 20.25 pi. So that's my base area. And then my height is right here. That's 12. That's my height. So volume equals 1/3 times 20 and 25/100 pi times my height, which is 12. So if you simplify that, 1/3 times 20 and 25/100 times 12 gives you 81. And then we still put our pi on there. So my volume exactly is 81 pi, and that would be feet cubed, or cubic feet. And if you want to find your rounded value, do 81 times pi, and that would be 254 and 47/100, and my unit is still feet cubed. So at this time, I'd like you to pause the video and try to do on your own number 2 on your own. And then turn it back on in just a little bit and see how you did on this. Okay, on your own number 2, it says find the volume of the right cone. So we know we've got our radius, and this right here, that's my slant height. So since I have the slant height, I want to find this height right here. So I need to find that height, and this is a right triangle. With that being a right triangle, I'm going to use the Pythagorean theorem. So my hypotenuse squared equals my height squared plus 6 squared. So 100 equals x squared plus 36. Subtract 36 from both sides, and you'll have 64 equals x squared, to the square root of both, and x equals 8. So my height here, my height is 8. So maybe you saw that you had to do that. Hopefully you did. If not, make sure you realize this when we do volume equals 1/3 my base times my height. This height right here is talking about the height perpendicular to the base. It's not talking about our slant height. We're not doing anything with our slant height today in this lesson. We're doing the height of our that's perpendicular to the base. So we found our height, 8. Now we need to find our base area. And to find our base area, since it's a circle, we'll do 1/3, not 1/3, we'll do pi times our radius squared. So my base area is pi times 6 squared, so that's 36 pi. So I found my height here and my base area, so let's fill this in. Volume equals 1/3 times my base area, that's 36 pi, times my height, which is 8. If you do 1/3 times 36 times 8, you'll find that our exact value for our volume is 96 pi, and that unit would be feet cubed. And if you want a rounded value, do 96 times pi, and that's 301 and 59/100, and my unit would still be feet cubed. Okay, let's look at the next example. So we're going to do example 3 here. So it says originally the pyramid had a height of 144 meters and a volume of 2,226,450 cubic meters. Find the side length of the square base. So we're going to have a square pyramid. Okay, I know these are the same length because it's a square pyramid. Okay, and I need to have this top. So there's my square pyramid. It's not the most beautiful square pyramid, but hey, I tried. All right, so there's my pyramid. I know my height is 144 meters. So my height comes right from the vertex down to the middle of the base at a right angle. So this height is 144 meters. And I know my volume here is right here, so there's V. It says find the side length, so we want to find S of this. Now, our formula for volume is volume equals 1/3 our base area times our height. So the volume they give me, I can plug it in, 2,226,450 equals 1/3 times my base area. Now my base area, since this is a square, to find the area of a square, you do side squared. So we can just plug s squared in for our base area, times our height, which they tell us is 144. So to solve this problem, we need to get s by itself. So we have to move everything away from s. And the first thing I want to move is this 1/3. To undo a fraction, we multiply both sides by the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply by 1/3 over here, or not by 1/3, I'm sorry, by 3. And then this is times 144, so to undo multiplying by 144, we're going to divide by 144. And then finally we'll square root to get rid of our second power here. So let's follow that step. To undo the 3, or 1/3, we're going to multiply by 3. So those will cancel. To undo the times 144, we'll divide both sides by 144. So I've got s squared equals, and if you put that in your calculator, you will get a pretty large number, and it's going to be a decimal. So instead of doing that, let's take the square root of all of this. So that's going to give us our side length all alone. So you need to put into your calculator, try and write this out, the square root sign, that should probably open a parenthesis, 3 times 220, I forgot my number there, 200, or 2,226,450. And then divided by 144. Since we only have one thing in the bottom, we don't need extra parentheses. Then close your parentheses there. And you should get, for your answer, 215 and 37/100ths. And then we're looking for a side length, so that would just be in plain meters. So this is my side length right here. So you might want to take a second and look at each other's calculators and make sure that you're all putting this into your calculator correctly and that you can all get that correct answer. If you need to pause the video, go ahead to do that. All right, let's look at this next one. It says the volume of a right cone is 1,350 pi cubic meters, and the radius is 18 meters. Find the height of the cone. So let's draw a picture. I'm going to draw my cone in here. There's my cone. I know my volume is 1,350 pi cubic meters. My radius of my cone, which would be like this, is 18 meters. Find the height. So I need to find this. I need to find my height right there. So let's use our formula. Volume equals 1/3 my base area times my height. So I'll put 1,350 pi in there equals 1/3 my base area. My base, since this is a circle, we'll do pi times our radius squared. So pi times 18 squared. If you do 18 squared, let's see here, 18 squared, that's 324 pi. So I'm going to do 1/3 times 324 pi times my height. Now I need to get my height all alone here. So again, let's start by undoing the fraction. To undo a 1/3 times something, we'll multiply by the reciprocal. So we'll multiply by 3. Okay, that'll cancel out the 3 and the 1/3. And then to get my h alone, since these 3 are all multiplied, we can divide both sides by 324 pi. That'll cancel out the 324 and the pi, and that'll leave us with just our height all alone. Now notice on this side we have a pi on the top and bottom. These are multiplied, and this doesn't have anything else. Since they're multiplied together, we can just cancel out those pi's. If there's addition or subtraction in there somewhere, we couldn't do that. Since it's all just multiplied, we can. So if you do 3 times 1,350 and then divide it by 324, you'll get 12 and a half, 12 and 5/10, and that's my height in meters. So there's my height right there. So we used our volume formula again, and then we just plugged in what we knew to solve our problem. We've got one last side here, so let's turn it over. So these examples right here say use trigonometry to find the volume of a cone. If you remember, trig is our SOHCAHTOA, sine, cosine, and tangent, and we are not going to do that. We've done it for a while. We're not going to do those right now. So yay, 2 more that you're not going to have to do right now. So let's look down here. This says find the volume of a composite solid. So a composite solid means we're putting a couple together. So looking at my picture here, I've got a cylinder on the bottom and then I've got a cone on the top. And they're combined, so I need to add them together. So I'm going to do my cylinder plus my cone. That's what I need to find. So to find the volume of my cylinder, we're going to do volume equals base area times my height. So for my cylinder, my base area, well, it's this circle right here, and that's really the base area for the cylinder and the cone. It's going to be pi times my radius squared. That's my base area. So that's 9 pi. So for my cylinder, my volume is 9 pi times my height of my cylinder is 7. So 9 times 7 is 63 pi. That's the volume of my cylinder. Plus, I need to add to that the volume of my cone. So volume of a cone is 1/3 my base area times my height. So the volume of my cone is 1/3. My base of my cone is still 9 pi times the height of my cone is 3. 1/3 times 9 times 3 is just 9 pi. So 9 pi. So I have 63 pi plus 9 pi, and if you add those together, you get 72 pi for my exact value, and my units would be centimeters cubed. Or if you want to give a rounded value, if you do 72 times pi, that's 226 and 1900ths centimeters cubed. So right here, these are our answers for this problem. Our exact value, and then our answer rounded to the nearest hundredth. Looking at the next one, it says find the volume of the solid shown to the right. Notice that the cone has been removed from the cube. So I've got this cube, and then this cone right here is taken out of the cube. So we need the volume of the cube minus the volume of the cone. So let's do that problem. So we're going to do cube minus the cone. This is my plan right here. My cube minus my cone. So the volume of a cube is my side length cubed. So the volume of my cube is 5.1 to the third power. And if we do 5.1 to the third power, you'll get 132.651. Okay, and we're going to do that. We're not going to do any rounding because we can easily write that down without rounding. Now I need to subtract my cone. So the volume of a cone is 1/3 my base area times my height. So my cone is right here. Now I know all the way across, so my diameter is 5.1. That means my radius has to be 5.1 divided by 2, and I need to know my radius in order to find my area. So my radius of my cone is 2 55/100ths if I do 5.1 divided by 2. So to find the base area of my cone, it's pi times my radius, 2.55, squared. Okay. So my volume equals, and I'm just going to keep it in that form right now so I don't have to write down some extra decimals. It's 1/3 times my base area, so 2.55 squared pi, times my height, which my height is 5.1. So if I do 1/3 times 2 and 5,500 squared times 5.1, I'm going to get a decimal here. So I'm just going to go ahead and multiply that by pi in my calculator, and I'm going to give a rounded value here. So if you multiply this all together in your calculator, you'll get 34 and about 73 hundredths. And let's just leave it 73 hundredths. So if we subtract 132.651 and then subtract 34 and 73 hundredths from that, you'll get that this is approximately equal to 97 and 92 hundredths, and my units there would be meters cubed. So my final answer is right here, and we found that by taking our cube and subtracting the cone that's not included. So this is the end of lesson 10.5. Hopefully you have a great day, and I will see you in class later.